what you said was that I need not to start killing people, but I need to start finding out just how much food they're actually growing. In other words, I need, alongside all my soldiers, I need some people who are sort of going around observing, nosying about, trying to find out, well, you said, information about what they're producing. And so I'm going to set up, alongside my army, I'm going to send up a group of people, and I'm going to call it a tax service. I'm going to set up this tax service, and the tax officers, they don't need to be armed. There's the soldiers behind them. But the tax officers are going to go snooping around to find out what people are really planting, so that we've got an idea of how much they really could afford to pay to me without starving to death. I take the point that if they starve to death, it doesn't help very much. So we're going to do that. We're going to set up a tax administration. And there's this guy over the channel, William the Conqueror. And that's what he's done. But, you know, when he conquered England, the first thing he did was he sent out a load of people to spy. And they wrote it all down. There's this marvellous book that writes down what every farmer in the whole of England has got. Down to the last pig, the last chicken, the last cow, and how much land. We've got a fantastic resource. We call it the Doomsday Book, right? And it's a fantastic resource for skinning these guys down to the last chicken. That's the sort of thing I want. The farmers in that Doomsday Book were not volunteering, saying, I'll pay the tax, I'll give you all this information, I'll give you the chickens, and you run the country well. There was no social contract. There was just William and his army and his taxmen saying, give me what I know you've got, or else it's the soldiers for you. So, where have we got to in our centralised state? We've actually come quite a long way from that little valley with the 4 individual farmers. We're now at a centralised state that's built a tax system. It's not very nice. People haven't consented to this. This is not a social contract in any sense at all. This is a bunch of thugs who've got more and more powerful, bigger and bigger group, and they're skinning people alive. So this is not nice. What's driving these guys to do it? Is it greed? Not really, not really. What are they using the revenues for? First and foremost, it's not for a life of indulgence and luxury, though they'll have that if they can. But first and foremost, what their revenue is being used for is to build a capacity for violence. Why are they doing it? Because there's always a guy on the other side of the hills doing exactly the same thing. And there are still scale economies and violence. And what's driving them is fear. So the dominant thing that's going on here is not really greed, it's fear. And where it's driven us to is this ever expanding polity, where scale economies is building a larger and larger entity capable of violence. And that's the process which is building social order within a state, but violence between states.